Well, good afternoon and welcome to today's event. My name is Ian McLean and I'm the President and CEO of the Greater Kitchener-Waterloo Chamber of Commerce. Before we begin, as we always do, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge that we work and live on the traditional territory of the Neutral, Anishinaabe, and the Haudenosaunee peoples, as we seek a renewed relationship based on a foundation of mutual understanding and respect. As participants in today's event, we are coming together as one. We believe everyone is free to be their true self and receive the same respect and opportunity regardless of age, ethnicity, gender, culture, identity, sexual orientation, beliefs, or language. We hope you'll join us in fostering a positive environment here today and ensure a safe and welcoming space for all. This event series is focused on the future of our region and is made possible thanks to the generous support of our partners and sponsors. So I want to thank our title sponsor in particular, Conestoga College Institute of Technology and Advanced Learning, our silver sponsor, Gore Mutual, our bronze sponsors, EY and WSP, our event sponsor, the Region of Waterloo International Airport, our community partners, Cornerstone Association of Realtors, Explore Waterloo Region, Future Cities Institute, the Immigration Partnership of Waterloo Region, North Guide, and Waterloo Economic Development Corporation. Our production sponsor today is Good Co-Productions. Our photography sponsor is Kinsella Marketing, and our host, and thank you to our host venue sponsor, the Doubletree by Hilton Kitchener. Please join me in thanking our supporters and sponsors. Just wanted to recognize a few folks, elected officials that have joined us today. I think we've got from Kitchener, Councillor Dave Schneider. I saw Dave somewhere. Where is he? There he is at the back. Councillor Corey Kimpson and Ross Earnshaw from Cambridge. I think they're over there. There they are. And from our board of directors, which support our staff and the community so well, Geraldine Stafford from the Waterloo Region Police Service is back here. Gina Hoodle just came in. She's at the back from Cannot. Kyle Broman from Conestoga Electric. He's at the back as well. There he is. And Steph Sulis from Little Mushroom Catering and Dining Lounge at the back. Thank you all for being here and supporting this event. And just as we get started, I want to welcome from our title sponsor, Conestoga College, the Vice President of Institutional Strategy and Engagement, Chief of Staff and Secretary General to the board, Norma MacDonald-Ewing, to bring a few remarks. Norma?
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Ian, I want to take a moment, and this is for you. Karen may have taught you that shh settles a room. At Conestoga College, sometimes we use yoo-hoo. So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you. We're very pleased to be one of the sponsors this afternoon. As you know, at Conestoga, we're deeply committed to fostering student success and driving community growth. And it's always an absolute pleasure to be in a room like this where everybody is equally committed to those initiatives. We achieve this through our comprehensive academic programs, workforce development initiatives, and industry-focused research, all aimed at addressing the skilled labor shortages in the communities we serve. And we certainly appreciate the intent of Vision 1 Million and are excited about it. This commitment is why we are so proud to partner with the Kitchener-Waterloo Chamber of Commerce as the title sponsor for Vision 1 Million. We are also looking forward to continuing to strengthen our collaboration with our Kitchener-Waterloo partners in the years to come. And thank you for your support in the years that have passed. I hope everyone enjoys this amazing event today. It promises to be very informative. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Norma, and we do appreciate the partnership with Conestoga and the important role that Conestoga plays in educating our workforce of the future as the economy and as our community evolves. The important nature of our post-secondaries at Conestoga, Waterloo, and WLU are going to be even more essential. Today's discussion is an important one for the community, and it actually starts, the story starts, I'm staring at Tony Lamantia, the CEO of Waterloo Economic Development Corporation. In the pandemic, at the start of the pandemic, we came together as business organizations because it was all hands on deck. No one knew what was going on, and probably 8, 9, 10 times a week, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day, the CEOs of including Tony, Waterloo EDC, the 2 chambers, Communitech and Waterloo, Explore Waterloo, would get together to talk about the issues that were affecting not only our members and the business community, but broadly the community as a whole. And Tony, the brainchild of what is now Best Waterloo, the business economic support team of Waterloo Region, was Tony saying, hey, we should pull this group together. We've never stopped meeting. We still have a weekly hour every week where we talk about the things that are important to the community and to our members. And I think what started as we were coming out of COVID was this idea of we were going to be 1 million people. And the question that we asked is, are we ready? And so this series that we're hosting at the Chamber, but that Best Waterloo still engages in, is we're going to be 1 million people. Are we ready? And so today's discussion is an important one as we continue to have that conversation. Today we're going to focus on airline services and housing development and housing stock, 2 key areas essential for meeting the needs of our expanding population and for economic growth here in the region. Together we'll hear from 4 exceptional speakers who will share their insights on how we can address these needs and assess our readiness with appropriate infrastructure for our growing region. So let's move to our first panel session, Taking Waterloo Region to New Heights. I have the pleasure of introducing two great business leaders. One is Canadian, one is not. I'm just kidding. One's Australian, but we're glad that he's making Waterloo a home. Our first speaker is John Thomas. He's the CEO of Smart Green Aviation Group, Inc., and of Connect Airlines, Inc., and a board member of Pivot Holding Company Canada. John is an aviation leader with nearly 5 decades. He doesn't look that old, but he's got 5 decades of hands-on experience. He launched his first regional airline in Australia in the late 70s and a successful corporate jet operator in Boston in 2008. He previously served as the CEO of Virgin Australian Airlines. I flew that several times in September, great airline, and which under his leadership carried over 20 million passengers each year. Generated a turnover, profit, I assume, of $4 billion of $4 billion US, and employed more than 6,000 people in his role as head of global aviation at LEK Consulting. John created the airline ancillary revenue cash stream, so he's responsible for you paying for suitcases and so if you have any you can discuss with him the efficacy of all the add-ons that airlines have now. Implemented it with most U.S. airlines and now contributing over $25 billion annually to the U.S. airline industry. This was recognized as a move that saved the U.S. airline industry, and currently he also serves on boards of Iceland Air, where he chairs the Health and Safety Committee and a member of the Audit Committee. Also joining on this panel is John Torrey. John is a pilot with extensive strategic business experience, playing a pivotal role in supporting Pivot Airlines' carbon neutral goals. He currently oversees commercial operations and market opportunities for the airline. And before joining Pivot, John served as the Director of Business Development at Air Canada in 2019. He also held a key position in business development at Air Canada Express, where he was responsible for new client identification and acquisition, as well as managing the team's event presence. John's career includes serving as the President and CEO of Private Air Inc., the aircraft management and charter division of Lavero, the Canadian dealer for the Pilatus aircraft. He also holds an airline transport pilot's license and an MBA from the University of Toronto. So please join me in welcoming John and John to the stage. Yeah, I thought I would get that in there, John, that you'll have a long lineup of people discussing ancillary fees for airlines. Let's start. This is an exciting time for the airport. As we think about being 1 million people, and Tony and others are looking to bring investment here to Waterloo Region, being connected to the world is incredibly important. And so I wanted to maybe give the first right off the bat. I've read your bios, but maybe talk about, in both your cases, your background in the airline industry, and what excites you about, taking that experience and applying it here in Waterloo Region. We'll start with you, John.
Great, thanks, Ian, and good afternoon, everyone. Great to be here. And please don't, like a friend of mine, have a voodoo doll of me that she does every time she pays bag fees. So no, I think a couple of things that I think are relevant for the discussion here is that, as you said, I started my aviation career in with actually starting a regional airline in rural Australia, and so from the get-go, I've always appreciated the importance that an airline has to a region. I mean, it is really the fabric of the community. My first sort of big foray into big airlines was actually helping what was very similar to where Air Canada was privatized and did the merger with Canadian Airlines. I was sort of doing the same thing in Australia, where I helped Qantas, that was privatized, and it acquired another airline. So as people say, that the two airline industries in the world that are most similar are the Canadian and the Australian airlines. And so there's a lot of parallels there. So I've sort of been through that. But in terms of what I've actually sort of done, it's really been on a focus on a couple of things. First off, the airline industry is a terrible industry financially. So I've literally spent 30 years on how do you fix airlines so that they can actually be sustainable and financially secure. So that's sort of been number one. And that's included helping airlines through Chapter 11. I was actually involved in the CCAA of Air Canada, et cetera, et cetera. So it's how do you fix it so that it actually is reliable and secure? Second one is improving the customer experience. And you'll say, but that doesn't come through bag fees. But that whole evolution of ancillary revenues actually did improve the customer experience. And what it was all about was, the joke was, in fact, I had this conversation with Robert Milton many, many years ago when he was the CEO of Air Canada. Ancillary revenues, the airline industry, because of operational efficiency, et cetera, they focus on saying no. Can I have a pillow? No. Can I go into the lounge? No. Can I go through faster security? No. And what ancillary revenues basically did was, how do we become an airline of saying yes? Now, yes, please. It comes comes with a dollar amount. But the critical thing about it was that people hate travel. People hate airline travel. And the reason is, it's the sort of one time in our life where we actually have no control of what we're doing. We're hurtling through the sky at 800 kilometers an hour at an altitude that your blood would boil if you weren't in a pressurized environment. You have no control. And what ancillary revenues allow you to do is actually have some control in terms of, where do I want to sit on the aircraft? Do I want to have a meal on the aircraft? So that's a critical thing, is understanding what the customer wants and then translating that into the product. I've done a lot of work on new product development. And finally, probably one of the big ones is developing win-win commercial partnerships with airlines. I mean, you can be the biggest airline in the world, but you need lots of friends. And that's sort of a core component of what we're doing with Connect Airlines. Is we're not out there to sort of compete head-to-head with all the major airlines. No, we actually serve a role that they can't serve themselves, and they acknowledge that they can't serve themselves. So what better way than have a win-win commercial partnerships? And I've done that. I did lots and Virgin Atlantic and Delta, Aeromexico and Delta, when I was at Virgin with Delta, and actually Virgin and Air Canada. So that's a critical component, is how do you actually help the major airlines meet more of the market need that they can't meet themselves.
John?
Thank you. And thank you to everybody for listening to our comments today. And I'm going to pick up where John left off to say that I am on the operations side of our partnership, meaning I'm in a commercial role, but at the operating partner. So we're the company Pivot Airlines is the company that's going to deliver the service. When you fly on the planes, it'll be our airplanes we fly on. And John, his organization, are investors, partners, and a client. And John very eloquently said that our industry is built on partnerships, and those partnerships live within our commercial community, as in the community we've created for ourselves with our agreements, but they also live beyond that in terms of the other airlines we want to work with. And there's a very, very delicate high wire act that takes place where we have to promote our own interests and those of our clients, but also serve as complementary partners to our industry. That includes people like our airports, our chambers of commerce, the regions we're intending to operate in, our staff, our suppliers, et cetera, all in a very, very low margin environment. And so part of what happens behind the scenes is you get people with quite a few decades of experience. So there's myself and there's the entire team at Pivot and the entire team at Connect who are lining up and comparing notes on all of these things we've been through in the past, things that are positive and things that we'd probably not rather repeat. And we try to line it up such that we're able to deliver a service that is safe, that is reliable, that's predictable, and that connects Kitchener-Waterloo to other parts in the world. And we're very excited to be here today to talk about what the first steps of that are going to look like and how we intend to approach that partnership, that delivery of service, and how we can ask for you in this room and your friends and family beyond people in this room to deliver on that. And I'll just end by saying that that's where my experience really comes into play. As you know from hearing a little bit about my bio, I started my career on truly on the operating side of the business as a commercial pilot. And then I never knew when to keep my mouth shut, and I kept offering suggestions as to how these small companies I work for could do things better, and then somehow found myself in a management role. And I went and got myself educated about that and still don't know when to stay quiet. So here I am sitting here offering management ideas to our partners, and we're going to deliver by applying our expertise as Pivot, which comes from the days of Air Georgian, who we were an Air Canada Express carrier, so all we did was operate for them. We were hyper-focused on safety, on reliability, and on delivery of service at the line, basically where you got on the airplane as a passenger. And the whole idea was to make it so that you actually didn't really know who we were in the background. We were an exceptional operator. So in this case, you're going to get on a Connect Airlines flight, and you're going to go anywhere you want in the world, and we're going to be the people who operate and deliver it for you, and we're very proud to be there and do that.
Okay, so let's explore the partnership itself. So we talked about reliability. That's going to be an important one for those traveling. The partnerships is not only between you operating, John, at Pivot and the partnerships you have inside the business, but you've talked about everything from loyalty programs and how you're going to connect with that, because that's important to travelers. Being able to do that handoff of getting to your destinations and then getting to other places, because you're not going to fly around the world, but you're going to get to points where you can get to other destinations. So maybe talk about the partnership from both your perspectives, both on the operations side and then the broader partnership. So I don't know who wants to start there.
Sure, I'll start. On the operations side, it's actually a relatively straightforward exercise. We ensure that every piece of technology, of training, of safety cultural awareness, and our staffing is appropriate such that we can interface with carriers that are larger and smaller than us. And including nowadays, there's an increased demand for intermodal focus. So we might need to look at a landline connection, for example, somewhere, or a connection into a rail service. So that's emerging in Europe. And Europe is, of course, much more densely populated than we are here. So if you want to see what some of the trends are that are likely coming to here, have a look at Europe and you'll see. And so they're starting some interline partnerships between airlines and railways. So as an operating partner, this is a major investment in personnel and technology. Those are the two main areas where we invest. And then with an accompanying component to that where we invest in our corporate culture to ensure that we are trained. It's safety first, foremost, and always. And in the airline world, that means that almost anybody has the ability to kind of pull the brakes on the operation at any given moment. and stop things if we don't think that a particular component or requirement has been met or we can't substantiate it. But then going beyond that, it's then training our staff and culture to use the tools that we have in order to be able to deliver. So as one example, there would be an investment, for example, in ensuring that your baggage tags have the correct type of technology in it with, say, RFID or Bluetooth tracking in the baggage system to be able to then be tracked throughout your entire journey from your Connect Airlines flight onto whatever other airline you're flying on or through whichever other airports you're traveling through, to make sure that when you're getting those real-time updates on your phone. I'll let you into a little industry secret. In the old days, those were just predictive notifications you were getting. I'm sure many of you have shown up somewhere and you said, but I don't understand. It says the bag got offloaded in Calgary and you're standing in Calgary and somebody tells you your bag is in Timmins, even though the app told you it was there. In many cases around the world, those were predictive. And that was largely due to technological integration. The industry has made great steps. The pandemic provided a chance to rejuvenate and to get ourselves aligned. And Pivot is there and ready to be at the forefront of making sure that every passenger on Connect and wherever else they want to go and travel is able to do so. So that's our contribution to the partnership, is making sure we can meet every need and deliver on every promise that Connect makes to you, the traveler.
And so why did we think that Pivot was the right partner? So a couple of reasons. Number one was, so when they were operating for Air Canada, their base was at Pearson. When we became a shareholder in Pivot about 18 months ago, we all collectively said, we need to move to the region of Waterloo. I mean, that was a key strategic investment and decision that we made back then. So it was actually, the best way to launch an airline is to actually have the actual operational base at the airport where you're going to launch. So number one. Number two was they have the right aircraft. Again, what our whole vision for Connect Airlines is, just because you're on a regional aircraft shouldn't mean that you get shitty service. I mean, frankly, because that basically is the history of regional aviation around the world. And our aspiration, and it's a key component of Connect, is you get on one of our aircraft, be it a 50-seat regional jet, and you're going to have the best experience that you've ever had. It'll be a better experience than getting on a much bigger aircraft. And to boot, you're operating out of an airport, which only, you're 3 minutes from the parking lot to the gate. I mean, you're going to be wowed. I mean, this will transform your travel experience. But to John's point, in terms of how the partnership works, great operator, 30 years of operational experience. It's actually great also that John's one of the pilots, because we all know that the pilots know what's really happening in the operation and can provide the feedback. And then the Connect side brings all of what I was saying I've spent the last 30 years doing, is on this passionate about customer experience. How do we make sure that our offering meets your needs, be it when we fly, what we fly, where we fly to, how often we fly there? That's how that works. And then finally, in terms of the broader partnerships, as John mentioned, really two objectives here: meet the needs of the business traveler and connect the region to the world. And that is a seamless connection to the world. So that means that, we're actually not going to have our own frequent flyer program, because you're probably all members of other frequent flyer programs, and you'd much rather get points on that frequent flyer program by flying on us than basically having to drive, 70 kilometers or whatever, so you can get those points. So we're going to make it easier. And it won't just be one frequent flyer program. We'll actually sort of tap into, again, through the partnerships with the larger airlines, tap into multiple frequent flyer programs that you can earn points and then burn points. And then finally, in terms of this seamless connectivity, is making sure that, you can book a flight from our Waterloo, the region of Waterloo Airport, and fly anywhere via, let's say, a Montreal or Chicago or whatever, but you can book it all the way through to your final destination, both your bags, but also, the whole experience.
So, and I was going to call one of you JT, but since you're both JT, I'm going to have to just keep saying John, and you'll have to figure out who I'm talking to. Connect and pivoted based at Waterloo Regional International Airport. I think that's important. And when you briefed sort of, I think it was the Airport Advisory Group a month or two ago, it was, that to me was, that's fundamentally different, is that you are not just have some ground-based staff here, that your business is based here. So what about Waterloo Region, and in particular, I guess the airport, makes this attractive for your airline to be based here? You know, so you can talk about it, doing maintenance on some of your aircraft here, some of your aircraft, some of those things are going to either be done here or eventually be done here. Why is that important?
Ian, I'll forgive you for the JT confusion. It happens all the time at the office. I never seem to get John's paycheck, but otherwise,
And you're lucky.
we live with that. But I'm affectionately known as JT2, which I push back on every single day.
Well, no, but you are JT Junior. So.
Yeah, I push back harder on that one. You know, there's no, I'm speaking to a room who understands this region very, very well. You guys understand innovation. You understand what drives it. You understand investment. You are one of the places in Canada and the world that has become known for the ultimate sandbox of ideas and what happens when a little bit of fuel gets put onto these massive sparks that come out of your minds and your institutions. And as somebody who doesn't live here, but I am affectionately and loyally here quite often, if you're not from here, you actually do feel it when you walk down the streets. And it's not just that ecosystem of young people, it's this notion and the spirit of entrepreneurialism. And we're hoping to tap into that. We're hoping to benefit from that. And so I can't, in a short answer, say why we picked here, other than to say this region is a hotbed of aviation and overall human thinking and educational technology and advancement. You have incredible and established institutions that are here that are very large and are studying some of the broader macro concepts of how we travel, of how humans operate within the travel, of how we interface with technology and where things are going to be in 20 years. You have other leading technology companies who are here, who are driving innovation. You also have a workforce that wants to live and stay here and have a generational existence here. That's very important, because when we look at businesses that do well, we often look at the very top, and we can probably all rattle off names of people who are leaders, but behind those people, there are hundreds, if not thousands of people who have different priorities in their life, and they want to show up every day, and they want to do their work, and then they want to come home, and they want to be able to live at home and perhaps have their kids grow up and live near them and come back so that they can see their kids as adults, see their grandkids, etc. And then out of there, you create this thriving community where people want to live. So everything we need is here. Not only is there an opportunity to be contributors in the local foundational airline here in the community, but you're also creating that innovative, entrepreneurial, adaptive staff that we need to go forward. And then to close it all out, there's a commercial opportunity here, and that's where the Connect side of the business comes in. But as an operator, everything we need to do well is here, and that's based on decades of investment that you've made in your airport, your universities, and your overall culture here that is just fantastic.
Okay, and maybe that's a starting point for you, John. The strengths of Waterloo Region's economy, but also the airport itself. We think about, as a market, it's going to be 1 million people in 20 years. The surrounding marketplace is probably going to be 2 million within a couple hours of Waterloo Region. Pearson versus the Waterloo Region International Airport. So when you put all of those things together, there's lots of interest in different destinations. So I'm going to pull 2 or 3 of the questions, because I'm already getting waving from the back of the room there from my staff. But let's talk about all of those pieces that make this attractive for here: the facility, the market, the ability to be based here with backup aircraft, and know that there's going to be a certainty. What's going to be, all of those things that they all play into saying that, because you're looking to the future. We've had airlines here before. Most of the time they didn't leave because they weren't being used. There were other external factors, like the cost of, or the profitability of the routes were better elsewhere. So maybe take all of those pieces and say, why should we think that this is going to be successful kind of into going forward into the, beyond the startup phase, that it's got legs to it?
So Ian, to us, the key strength is the mindset. I mean, one of the biggest problems with the airline industry around the world is it's taken for granted. Cities have airports, they have airlines that come and go, and they give lip service to the airlines, etc. What I found here, and I give a huge amount of credit to the chamber, to the community leaders like Karen, people here are passionate about the airline industry, and they acknowledge, well, number one, it's they recognize and they acknowledge the critical role that a local airline has in growing the community. And once you've got that mindset, everything else falls into place, because I got to tell you, 99% of other cities around the world don't have that mindset. They take it for granted. And I mean, back to what John was saying before, there are obviously some very specific things from a commercial perspective that make this very attractive. There's a strong job market, but more importantly is there's great industry diversity. I mean, you see what's been happening in places like Seattle when, if there's a technology burst, then, Seattle goes away type thing. No, you've got an incredibly diverse industrial base here. I know your cost of living is probably higher than you want it to be, but relative to Toronto, it is more affordable to live here than Toronto. You've obviously got incredibly strong, phenomenal educational institutions, but you've also got a great quality of life here. You really do feel like community here. A family-friendly environment, green space, a sense of community, regional services, and you've got location and local infrastructure. I mean, I was walking around Kitchener this morning with the tram service, and I mean, it's just absolutely phenomenal. So, I mean, as you say, what do we need here in terms of the talent? I mean, we're blessed, as John said, in terms of we basically need pilots and mechanics, and you have one of the largest pilot training centres in Canada here, being the Waterloo Wellington Flight Centre. And the other thing too, as John was saying, I mean, you've got the University of Waterloo, the Waterloo Institute of Sustainable Aviation. We are so excited to work with them around things like the human factors, what they're doing in terms of sustainable aviation, et cetera, et cetera. So all of the stuff is here that we can build on. And why is it going to be different? Well, as John said before, it's very different from being the hub with a local homegrown airline than basically being a spoke of a hub. And, I know the American Airlines folks very well, and they said that the loads when they were doing the Chicago O'Hare to YKF service, they were phenomenal. They were actually, I think they were 85% load factor. They said demand was not the issue. It was the fact that they have, out of Chicago O'Hare, they have like 70 spokes, and operationally it was difficult for them to justify just this spoke here, because the problem with is that they had this one aircraft, this one flight or two flights a day coming from Waterloo Kitchener that went into the international terminal at Chicago O'Hare. Now, again, very different for us because we're going to be based here. We will grow as the market grows, and going into Chicago, hey, yeah, we'll be operating into the international terminal, but we're already going to be having discussions with Chicago about, how do we have a fast track for anyone coming on our flights? How do we actually reduce the minimum connect time at Chicago O'Hare? How do we time the flight so that if you want to go to the West Coast, San Jose, San Francisco, LA, that we make a seamless connection to that. So it is different. And then finally, I think it's a very different product proposition than what you've had before. I mean, again, before you've had and I hate to say it, the classic regional airline that has sort of operated here. And the thing that I like about, again, this partnership with Pivot is that they've got these 50-seat regional jets, and that gives us huge, number one, it's a much better customer experience. And number two, it actually gives us the operational flexibility to do, shorter flights, Montreal, Chicago, New York, etc., but actually gives us the flexibility to do longer flights down to, South Florida or to Dallas, etc. So and we are passionate about making this a much better customer proposition than what you've had before.
And I think it's important, that Chicago, it was 80, the load factor was 85%. That same aircraft started flying from, I think it was Akron, Ohio into Chicago. And it's just because they could make more money. It was nothing to do with that.
Yep.
We got 5 minutes, 10 minutes, well, 5 minutes, which is really 10 minutes. We got 3 questions to get through. Let's talk about the initial destinations that you're planning. I don't know, John, you want to start? Both of you can chime in here. The opportunities are here with utilization of where you start. There are plans for more destinations. So let's start with where are you starting first? What type of frequency and how you see that evolving over time in terms of either destinations or frequency, because those are going to be issues that everyone is interested in.
So if I go back to our primary objective, which is meet the needs of the business traveler and connect Waterloo or connect the region to the world. So obviously the first one will be business destinations. So the likely candidates there are Montreal, New York, Ottawa, Boston, Chicago. And then how do we connect? And then on the frequency, etc., is let's make sure that when we launch those, we do them as double daily. So basically there'll be a flight out of here first thing in the morning, depending on how much coffee you need, whether it's a 6 a.m. flight or a 7 a.m. flight. But then importantly, and so out and back in the morning and then out and back in the evening. So, for New York, we've already we obviously play around with schedules, but we're literally thinking of like a 7 a.m. departure out of here to New York and a 7:40 p.m. departure back from New York to here. So, I mean, the prospect of having a totally stressless work day in New York and being able to, and then similar to Montreal is flight out in the morning, flight back in the evening. But the other thing too is tapping into, let's make sure that the flight out of here is early enough so that the return flight, coming out of Montreal at sort of 8 o'clock in the morning is back here at say 9 and then goes back at 6 so that someone from Montreal can come to the region and have a productive day similar to New York. So that's sort of the how do we meet the needs of people being able. We want your hotel frequent flyer or your hotel frequent stay points to plummet because we want you home in bed at night. So number one. Number two is obviously we want to connect you to the world. So what that would mean is for let's say in Montreal, which has incredible connectivity to the rest of the world, in particular Europe, we would need to operate a midday, sort of an early afternoon flight, gets into Montreal about 2 o'clock in the afternoon that basically gives you all of that afternoon bank to Europe and other destinations. So that's really the thinking of it.
So, John, one of the things that Pivot does is being able to have available aircraft for peak times and surge. Maybe build on that. I mean, where you start and the frequency that you have will be dependent on the utilization by the community, but you also have lots of room operationally to grow the service.
In brief, yes, we have a lot of excess capacity. Another part of Pivot's business is operating charter, as in on-demand services, and we do a lot of work for, fire evacuation and repatriation, other government type work, and work for other airlines on a very much on an ad hoc basis. So we are available to stand up and stand down. However, the advantage to the great plans that John and our teams are putting forward is that we will know what the needs are. And this is where we're coming, and we have been out and listening to the market here. And I encourage you, please find me. I'm on LinkedIn, and everybody around here has my contact information. If you have some ideas you'd want to share, please find us. We use that information to build out a schedule, and then we build out a schedule that we are able to operate for Connect and for you. And then the focus becomes more on what recovery looks like in the event that we have a day where things don't go as planned. And so what you don't want to have is a system where you're mirroring your fleet for just in case, but instead optimizing your fleet so that on the odd day where you have to do recovery, you're able to do it and make that journey as seamless as possible for the customer while controlling costs, which keeps your ticket cost down. And then managing the regulatory complexities that go along with both that reserve capacity, which means more jobs, more people sitting on reserve and planning and operating and coordinating these things, but as well the right balance of additional aircraft that are out doing productive work from our charter base here at the region of Waterloo Airport and beyond.
And Ian, sorry, I know we're out of time, but can I just make one final sort of comment in terms of how big this could be? Well, the truth is, and Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, the truth is this is really already a really, really big airline market. Today, in 2024, there were 3.4 million travelers out of the region that unfortunately, because of nothing, I mean, the airport's done everything possible to try and get more people coming out of the airport. But in 2024, of those 3.4 million passengers, only about 400,000 were able to use the airport because the right air services were in place. Our ambition by 2023 is to basically capture about an additional, say, 24%. So none of this is based on us going out and, we think we will stimulate the market because obviously direct service makes it a lot easier, et cetera, but all we're actually doing is making a better service, having a better proposition for the market that exists today.
Okay, I got two, and these are lightning round because I'm getting evil looks from the back. How can business, maybe John, I'll start with you quickly. How can the business community support what's going on? So is it, we two meetings I've been in, people are saying, hey, what about Halifax? Because we know that there's lots of business connections. So there may be some suggestions on other destinations, but how can we support, buying tickets is obviously number one thing, but what can business do to support, make sure this is successful right from the get-go?
I will give you three quick answers because we are investing in this community and we know what that means to you guys to invest in your community. Number one is spread the word. So, there's a few hundred people in this room. Please tell other people that you know of, and when the time is right, we'll have a more broad public campaign on this. But for now, we want the business community in particular to know. Number two, share your thoughts and ideas, including if you want to have a confidential conversation with one of us about somewhere you're investing or growing as a business and you would like to know what those market dynamics might look like. And then number three, take our call. So when we come back and we are ready to do some pre-sales, pre-sponsorship, and pre-commitments, which are essential to launching a business airline. This is the how the sausage is made of airline launch. We ask just you take our call. I'd like to say, please commit today as well, but just take our call and hear us out. This is how, when we put our flag in the ground and say we want to do this, we rely on the business community taking our call. And you guys have been great so far, but those would be the three things that would help us as we invest here in the region to grow.
Any final thoughts, John?
And this is a partnership. So we want to be your partners. We want to be your trusted partners. And we're really, really excited about the flight ahead.
Listen, thanks, John, JT and JT, for this great discussion. Really appreciate your coming down and being part of this event today. The future of air service here seems very bright, and we're excited about it. Thanks for spending some time with us today. Thanks, guys. So next, the region of Waterloo International Airport is a critical asset in part of the Vision 1 Million strategy of how are we going to be successful as a community of 1 million people. and major expansion plans are underway to handle the increase in passengers and aircraft operations. So I wanted to give a few minutes to my good friend Chris Wood. He is the airport director from the region of Waterloo International Airport to introduce some of the expansion efforts and what's coming in the coming days. So Chris landed at the region of Waterloo International Airport in 2009. I can't believe it's been that long, and I met you in 2009, taking the role of airport general manager with over 25 years of aviation experience. He previously worked for 12 years at the GTAA, so the Greater Toronto Airports Authority, holding positions in operations, strategic planning, facility activation, and consulting services at Pearson Airport. He has had notable successes, including managing logistics for the opening of Pearson Terminal 1 and overseeing the activation of, there it is, I'll just keep going through. People already know your bio. Activation of Terminal 5 for JetBlue Airways at JFK International Airport in 2008. He holds a BSc in Aviation Technical Management and an honors diploma in Airport Operations and Management. He's accredited with the International Association of Airport Executives, a private pilot, another one, and the current president of the Airport Management Council of Ontario. Please join me in welcoming Chris Wood.
It's like the lie detector test going off, everyone. Well, it's great day to be here, and thank you so much for having me. And it was a great presentation by our great partners at Connect and Pivot. And we are very fortunate to have Pivot be based at our airport. And I like to think that wasn't by accident. We worked hard to work on that one. The theme of today is, are we ready? And I can say we're not ready at the airport, but we're going to get ready. And that's really what we've been doing over the last couple of years. We put a plan together, a growth plan that will help us get ready for what we believe is coming. And today's, I call it an announcement. They call it a talk, but we'll see. But yeah, we think today was a big step forward to provide those services that we know the community is already using, and we hope we'll use them from our airport. So what are we doing at the airport? So, and why are we doing this now? Well, the last plan came out in 2017, and the word pandemic did not exist in that plan. It was about 400 pages, and that word did not exist. We've had significant growth since 2017. Not sure if you're aware, but we were the fastest growing airport in this country by far over the last couple years, and we're continuing to see growth. The current master plan is outdated. As I said, the word pandemic did not exist. We are preparing for future disruptions, and I can tell you that pandemic was particularly difficult for aviation. Some airports went down to zero and are still at zero in this province, and that's troubling. The industry trends have changed, conditions have changed, airlines are changing, aircraft are getting larger, pilots are harder to find. Things are changing. The smaller aircraft type is being phased out. So, you know, we have to adapt to those things. The opportunity, we wanted to have this opportunity to talk to you, talk to the community, and see if we're on the right path. And I will just say, we have some boards at the back that I ask you to have a look at, put your comments on there, and every single comment will make part of the presentation that we give to Regional Council in the new year. We also want to assure that our development is aligned with regional priorities. And I can tell you that the airport has been a priority for the region. And I give all the credit in the world to our regional councillors, not the ones of just today, but of previous regional councillors. They have invested every single year in this airport, and it's for reasons like you just heard on the previous panel. So what have we been doing for the last few years? Refresh technical studies is complete. So we looked at a whole bunch of different things from our last plan that we wanted to study. We studied if we need a third runway in the region. We studied ground transportation, potential LRT phase 3 connections into the airport. We've looked at all sorts of things and a lot of environmental studies as well. And we have been going out for a public stakeholder consultation, this being one of them. We'd love to hear your feedback, and we hope to get council approval in early 2026. John stole a bit of my thunder earlier, but the reason why we're doing this is evident on this slide. So at the airport today, 660 people work there every day. We have 44 different businesses operating at the airport and a $390 million total economic output in 2023. And I can tell you that has grown since 2023. There are new businesses operating that were not included in that in 2023. And I can tell you there's some big announcements yet to come in the next month or so. YKF continues to grow as the hub for the sector. We have many local companies. We have many national and international companies. Bombardier also now has a presence at the airport. But the real reason why we would do this is what John alluded to earlier, is the potential market that we have. So even though we were one of the fastest growing airports in the country, only 12% of those passengers used our airport. And, you know, a variety store couldn't exist if only 12% of the people used it. So we really need to repatriate people back to use this airport and stop. I always ask, does anyone like going to Pearson? Anyone? 16 years, no one's ever put their hand up. So we want to help change that. You don't need to go to Pearson, right? You can see that 78.8% of our passengers in this catchment area use Pearson, which is great. I use it. We all use it, right? We have to use it because if you want to go somewhere that we don't fly to, you're going to use it. But there's a tremendous opportunity, as John said, to bring some of those passengers that are already flying today back to this airport if we can give them a better or similar or better experience. So some of the key themes in our plan, and the plan is available on our website if you're interested in downloading it. It's quite the read, but it is available for comment. We know we're on track to reach 1 million people. That's the theme of this today's event. We want to prepare for that now, and we want to support the growth of this community. Excuse me. The themes are YKF as a mobility hub, not only airplanes. Could we bring in phase 3 of the LRT? There's a new GO station opening about 2.5 kilometers north of our airport, right? How can we incorporate that into a new terminal building? Just-in-time infrastructure strategy. We want to be one step ahead, ready to go. We are ready right now to put shovels in the ground on a runway extension. It's already designed. It's ready to go. And, you know, our Prime Minister announced a whole ton of money in the last week that we think we can tap into to make that happen. And those things are underway. We want to balance the growth and the environmental protections. We're looking at that. We're going to replace wetlands. We're going to replace forests that we need to remove because of runway extensions. We want to be the driver for the aerospace sector that's already thriving in this community. There are many, many other companies in this community already working in the aviation space, not necessarily just at the airport. And we want to help manage conflict with competing lands. We're working hard with our federal counterparts to protect the airport as far as approaches and runway certifications go. And we believe we are leading the country in that aspect. So that's really all I had. I was told if there was a question or two, I'm happy to answer it. If not, my contact is there. Please get in touch. Please leave us your comments on the boards. Are there any questions? No, not by you. Yes, sir. Or we're getting larger too, I don't know. Yeah. You have to talk to the airline guys about that. Airports do not control seats on airplanes. That's it. Thank you very much.
JT and JT are here to take your questions there, Neil, at the conclusion of the event. Okay, well, so we've established that connecting our region to the world is crucial for the economy moving forward. And as we look forward toward Vision 1 Million, a key focus area that needs to be addressed, and we all know this, is housing supply and development. We need to ensure we have the wide kaleidoscope of housing needs, from affordable housing to, stacked towns, single-family dwellings, multi-res. We need it all in order to be fully successful as a community. And that brings us to our next discussion. We're going to have a conversation about housing needs, where things are at, and I have the pleasure of introducing our expert for this session, Bill Deuce. He is the inaugural CEO of the Cornerstone Association of Realtors. And when it was established on July 1st of 2024, it brought together 4 real estate boards serving Hamilton, Burlington, Waterloo Region, Mississauga, Haldimand County, Norfolk County, and surrounding areas. It is a huge, huge organization now. And prior to this role, he served as CEO of the Waterloo Region Association of Realtors. So Bill has chartered the blending of 6 distinctive associations into one. He's a builder at heart, enjoying taking disparate pieces and shaping them into something that work together. In the real estate space, he was a privilege to partner with other board leaders to develop the Information Technology Systems of Ontario initiative, which unified 17 real estate boards and associations into a single regional MLS system. Cornerstone inspires Bill to focus on what the next iteration of real estate associations can become. And while there is work to be done in this ever-changing landscape, he's steadfast that it must continue to revolve around the needs of their members, but also the community. So please welcome me in join me in welcoming Bill to the stage. Come on up, Bill. Let's just start. I mean, for order of magnitude, I mean, the coming together, we work very closely with Tanya and the gang here locally, but you are now, it's a huge swath of Southern Ontario that's captured pretty much everything except for the GTA.
And that's by design.
Yeah.
Yeah. GTA can stay on their own, but it's what's interesting is that it brings so many diverse perspectives on the housing spectrum, that it has large urban centers, it has rural areas, it has vacation properties, and each community is truly a unique community upon itself. And that's the value of housing as a whole, is obviously the community that it serves.
Okay, demand has been slowing. I think we've been seeing this, and which I think is counterintuitive to folks. It's not like, the housing crisis has been solved. I think there's a combination of higher interest rates, softening economy. People are worried about making that probably the biggest purchase they make, which is a family home if they're going to buy one. So what are you seeing on the ground in Waterloo Region, and how should we be thinking about the next 12 to 18 months? Because it's the crisis hasn't gone away. I think we just got some circumstances which are dampening demand. There's still, it will eventually come back, and there's lots that needs to be done on that front.
Yeah, and before I get into this, I just want to be clear that I'm not a realtor. I've never sold real estate. We have realtors in the room that are never too busy for your referrals, so reach out to them and be happy to talk to you. And I think that, when we talk about this, the demand is still there. People want to move up in their housing. The demand is there, but there's affordability barriers that are preventing far too large of a spectrum of our community from achieving that. And when you look at what's happening, when you see the statistics, the issues with statistics is that, number one, it talks about averages, and nobody buys an average home. They're buying specific properties in specific areas, and you need that local expertise to really understand what that value should be. And the other issue is that too many of these statistics are being compared against 2021, 2022, when we were coming out of the pandemic. And I don't think anybody uses post-pandemic numbers as a baseline of what's average or what's not average in their industry. If we look at what's really going on the inventory side of things, we're about 2015 levels. The same level we're at in 2015 is where we are in inventory. The difference is that properties in the residential side are still selling about 10 days faster as they did back in 2015. The sale price is down about 12% from the 2021 numbers, but it's almost double what it was in 2015. And for those of you long in the tooth, remember the 2015 property market, nobody was complaining about the activity. They were saying, hey, this is a good, solid market. It's stable. And the reason they talked about stability is because it was a balanced market. We haven't seen a balanced market since the pandemic, particularly in this region. It's been that seller's market. It's been overly excited. It's had a lot of competition on the offer side, which wasn't a good experience, frankly, for anybody at that stage. So when we see it going back to the 2015, it's a little bit of sanity being injected back into it to allow particularly the buyers to take a step back and think about what they're doing rather than feeling overly rushed to get that offer in to beat out the competing side of things. Where it's a little bit different is on the condo side. They're taking a little bit longer to sell than the residential side. And it goes back to, there's no such thing as a true average per se. From talking to my members, some of the issues that they're hearing, particularly from sellers, is making that adjustment to what the current reality of what's going on is. They'll say, hey, my neighbor's house sold for $900,000 last year. I want to list it for $900,000. And the good realtor is saying, well, that's great, but it's really only worth $8.5. And they say, I still want to test the water, So they go ahead at the 900 range. 3 weeks later, they said, you're right. We should have listed it for 850, but now it's actually worth 8.25 or 800. And trying to, so you're always chasing the affordability of reality. And I think that's the danger of just dealing with the number of statistics, because again, it's all localized and specific to the where your home is.
So we still have I think we still have, interest rates have played a difference. So maybe we talk about interest rates as dampening. They have come down, but I think you then have the softening market as well. What are some of so if you think about interest rates, supply is still an issue. Housing starts are down, so new homes are down. We know that effectively the multi-res sector is basically, certainly in this region, is frozen. Like there is nothing new happening there. Will that artificially create that supply and demand crisis again over time? I think supply needs to be a big part of this equation to get what you're talking about, is more to that balanced market where there's some sanity in what prices are at.
Exactly. Right now the resale supply is there, but we certainly need to inject the new building into the market to meet those projections for that 1 million people. That the supply isn't there today. And I think, the important fact on this is, as you started off, the supply has to be across the full spectrum of housing. Mm-hmm. Every spectrum plays a role, and it plays a critical role for buyers and for sellers. Part of when I look at interest rates, I'm of a certain age where it's just one number, so I think it's good. It's like, remember the days where the two numbers or above, and you hear that. So it's like the interest rates are still very solid, very competitive. That's out there, but affordability is being hit because, of course, salaries haven't kept pace of pricing along that side. Based in part of the challenges people in Waterloo region have is that it's such a great place to live and work. The quality of life you experience here is causing some of these issues a little bit above and beyond what some other communities are looking at. One of the interesting indicators, one of the services that a real estate board does is we provide the MLS system. So that gives us a few million records of properties going back a couple of decades. And invariably, whenever sales decrease, we see a correlating increase in the number of residential leases hitting the system because people are still getting engaged. They're still wanting to purchase and get into the system. And so that correlation, though, the problem we have is a lot of the legislation around the rental requirements and particularly the landlord-tenant board isn't really being as dynamic as we need them to be today. And so we end up in situations where we have bad landlords taking advantage of tenants. We have a situation of bad tenants taking advantage of their landlords. And so this legislation is a restriction on preparing for the people coming in, because I'm hearing from some landlords the fact that they're not putting units on the market because they're afraid. They don't want to get the wrong person and then not be able to get them out, and then they get stuck. And there is, you know, in our jurisdiction recently, there was a landlord assaulted by a tenant that they were trying to make a deal with to make that change. So we have to catch the legislation up to the actual housing needs.
I mean, and just in terms of new units, purpose-built rental, or which is a problem. There are improvements that need to be made in legislation or the balance between tenants and renters. But as we think about that supply side, back to, I mean, the global uncertainty that the tariff war is causing is I mean, that's a huge thing for, I mean, here from the construction sector, the cost of every one of their inputs is virtually are going up, and by significant, whether it's steel, wood, all of these things are going up. How are those things playing into, again, to your point, it's got to be, the supply needs to be increased right across the board in all those sectors. How are you kind of thinking about this, the global context now? Do you see that when that's resolved, assuming it is, that we get back to more housing starts and demand picking up?
I think that's everyone's goal. Number one is to have it resolved. I think that, you know, the reality of the residential housing market is it's built off of the backbone of the commercial sector. You know, commercial, industrial, retail, all of that activity brings in people, brings in jobs. That's why people are within the community, and that's what's required. So if the commercial market is down because of tariffs, which, you know, we started this year in this region in not a good spot, just because of the legacy manufacturing, and particularly in automobile plus steel and aluminum, it's coming back up, but it's not where it needs to be by any stretch of the imagination. So when you have these commercial factors disrupting employment or job security is the other side. Even if it hasn't really impacted your job, people are still concerned that it may impact their job. So if they're typically at that stage in life where they would be moving up to that next level of housing, they're just deferring that. So we're not seeing the same churn at certain price points as you normally would from the buyer's side. And a lot of the members have reported the fact that the security from the buyers isn't there because of these global issues. There's, you know, the biggest example of large projects being put in the back burner because of the tariffs, not quite Waterloo region, but happened in Hamilton with the Pier 8 development. It was a 45-story tower, 1,600 residents, would have truly been transformative to the north end waterfront of the Hamilton market. The city's been anxious to go forever, the developer as well, but they just can't get the support to start this project. So it was deferred again 2 weeks ago. And it's unfortunate because as an economic driver within that section of the city, it would totally change the landscape.
So let's talk about what needs to be done. I mean, you know, from the real estate, from the association's perspective, what are some of the things that, because I think there's kind of a shared responsibility, right? Whether it's a region or local municipalities, what can they do to incent or support more supply being started? I mean, there's some macro pieces there, but there's also things that are on this for the seller or for the buyer and the seller that the province and the feds can do. I mean, we've seen bits and pieces about we're going to take GST off certain segments to try and kind of get the demand side back. But what are some of the, if you had to kind of say, what would be your top three things to kind of drive, you know, the market in a positive way, and get things going again? Like, what are the two or three things that government should be doing?
There's a couple of suggestions. Again, I'm no more of an economist than I am a realtor, but nevertheless won't stop me from talking about it. I think part of the problem, it always comes down to money. It's money at the end of the day. That the services that the federal and provincial government is downloading the municipalities cuts out of their coffers from providing a lot of these tools to the developers or things on a cheaper level to the developers. I think we see programs happening successfully municipally, provincially, federally, but there's not always a lot of cohesion between those actions. So we need much deeper collaboration between all three levels, to eliminate duplication, but just to make sure it's a smoother implementation. Even as simple as the HST announcement that the Liberal government came out saying that they're going to reduce the HST for new home buyers.
Homes.
For first-time buyers of new homes. So the provincial government says, hey, that's great. We'll reduce our 8% as well. This goes up to $1 million. So it's potentially $130,000 they'll reduce from the fee. But now provincially, they're saying, well, why are we just doing this for first-time buyers? Isn't this good for every buyer? Couldn't we help them in that regard? Or why, is there a way to transfer this to the resale market, even though it's not the same HST requirements? But those conversations should happen before the public announcements occur so that there could be greater collaboration at every level. And, the strange thing from an association perspective is the fact that, our prominent service that we've always done is the MLS system, is what people know by. But in the last 5 years in particular, the advocacy work that's being required for the association is more than ever before, not just because of the legislation, but the unintended consequences of legislation. So we like to say that advocacy is important at our level so that the MLS can happen in some of those issues, because we've seen time and again threats come through potential legislation that's occurring at one or other areas, just because everybody's trying to resolve this. It used to be that political parties would have their platforms of 20 items. And pre-COVID, you'd see housing is number 17 or 18, where today housing's in the top 2 or 3 of every party, just because it's such an important issue for every Canadian.
So, we're talking about housing in context of Vision 1 million, of saying there's going to be 1 million people here, 300,000 roughly speaking in the next 20 years. We got to have housing for them. We got to have healthcare. We got to have jobs. And we work on that, and that's why we partner with you and as often as we can, and your team, Tanya and others. If there was one thing that we collectively should be advocating for, what would that be? To be more integrated, to say this could really move the needle either on the cost for the buyer or in driving supply, or do we need to do both things?
And I have to keep going back to the collaboration side. Because the reality is there's no silver bullets that's going to resolve the issues that we have. And anybody looking for singular programs that are going to have a significant shift, something else is going to have to pay the cost for that. So I think it's going to be an incremental process through all 3 layers, working through open collaboration, and most importantly through industry partners who obviously are the subject matter experts on the ground at the very finite level that is going to make this region ready for the influx of population.
Listen, Bill, we could go on all afternoon because there's a lot to cover in this, but you're always welcome to come back and give us updates as things change. We love working with you and your team. It's really important for us as we think to investors coming here of the workforce of the future, and housing's right at the top of the list of needs for our community. Thanks for joining us today.
It's always a pleasure.
Well, as we close today's event, I would like to take a moment to once again thank our sponsors and partners. These events don't happen without the support of our partners. And so thank you to our title sponsor, our good friends at the Conestoga College Institute of Technology and Advanced Learning, our silver sponsor, Gore Mutual, our bronze sponsor, EY and WSP, our event sponsor, the Region of Waterloo International Airport, our community partners, the Cornerstone Association of Realtors, Explore Waterloo Region, Future Cities Institute, founded by Kyvan, Immigration Partnership of Waterloo Region, North Guide, and Waterloo Economic Development Corporation. Our production sponsor, Goodco Productions. Our photography sponsor, Kinsella Marketing, and host venue sponsor is Doubletree by Hilton Kitchener. Please join me once again in thanking our partners. This event is the first in our yearly 4-part series on Vision 1 Million. Are we ready? Each focusing on different areas vital to our region's growth. And so our next event is scheduled for January the 15th. We'll have both of our hospital presidents, Ron Gagnon from Waterloo Region Health Network and Patrick Gaskin from Cambridge Memorial Hospital. Mark your calendars and please scan the barcode on your tables to register and secure your spot for that next session. And finally, thank you to all of you for participating and joining us today and for your continued support of the Chamber's events and programs. For additional networking opportunities, be sure to explore our full calendar of upcoming events on our website at greaterkwchamber.com. Thanks once again and have a great afternoon.